Hi guys, Iron Cameraman here. If I asked you, which race in the series is the strongest, how would you answer? Who comes to mind? Most of you would probably say the Astro Toilets. They're impressive with their numbers and capabilities. In the latest episodes, they're really dominating, destroying cities and wiping out agents left and right, showing a huge advantage over Earth's forces and tech. Some might mention the TV men with their unique, overpowered abilities like teleportation and hypnosis, which can take down enemies. Their strategy, intelligence, and especially the Titan make them stand out. Others might say Cameraman 3.0, and they wouldn't be wrong because those guys are strong too. Some might even point to the speakers and their massive army, since Boom often highlights them. In reality, each race in the series has its own strengths, so naming the absolute strongest isn't easy. But today, I'm here to prove that the strongest race is the Skibidi. Believe me, they're capable of standing up to any other race, and we've seen them do it repeatedly throughout the series. And let's not forget the main point. The Skibidi fought against the 3 Alliance races alone. That alone gives them the right to be called the strongest. But beyond that, there's a lot we might have missed, and today we'll dive into why the Skibidi might just be the top. So, get comfortable, grab some tea and cookies, and let's get started. But first, hit subscribe and leave a like. Your support always motivates me. Let's start with an obvious fact. The sheer number of Skibidi is massive. Imagine this. Earth has around 8 billion people. If we assume that a third of the population perished due to destruction, explosions, and other war-related disasters, that's about 2.7 billion people. Besides the agents and Skibidi, the remaining ordinary people we saw in episodes 73 and 77 are likely down to just 70,000. Now, add a few billion who might have become cameramen, speakers, and TV men, assuming they were originally humans too. Even accounting for those losses, the Skibidi still number around 3.5 billion. Sure, these are rough figures, but the main point is clear. The Skibidi have a major advantage in numbers. There are just so many more of them compared to the other races individually, and they actively use that advantage, which we've seen in various episodes. Remember the early episodes? The Skibidi were everywhere, while there were only a few small groups of agents who posed no serious threat to their army. The only ones who can match the Skibidi in numbers are the Astro Toilets, but to reach such numbers, they'd need to gather Astro Toilets from all over their planets. It's unlikely their entire army would assemble on Earth, and honestly, they don't need to. Also, based on episode 68, the Skibidi have the ability to clone Skibidi Toilets like a factory, meaning part of their army is now entirely synthetic. This is also backed up by the presence of several fake G-men. So the numbers advantage of the Skibidi gives them significant power. They can build up forces and use their sheer mass to take on any threat. Now let's move on to the commanders and strategies of each race. Throughout the series, Skibidi Toilets have always followed a certain strategy. They constantly came up with new approaches and never went into battle unprepared. G-Toilet demonstrated this strategy especially well. His tactics allowed the Skibidi to consistently win over the Alliance. Just when it seemed like the Alliance would win, our G-Man would show up and wipe them out. Episode 65 is a prime example. The Titans, in turn, often act without a clear plan, and even if they have one, it doesn't always work. But unlike the Titans, G-Man and the Skibidi scientist never acted without thinking. They always had a goal, a tactic, and a plan. For example, the scientist often used his powers for teleporting troops, as seen in episodes 62 and 66. It was a smart use of his abilities, allowing them to move troops efficiently and gain an advantage at the right moment. As for G-Toilet, his plans, especially in the latest episodes, are truly impressive. From episodes 71 to 73, he managed to defeat the Astro Scorpion and 3 Titans using his strategy. Meanwhile, if we look at the cameramen and speakers, we see them acting chaotically, with no clear attack line, and their battalions are scattered across Earth. This results in inefficient use of resources, making their actions ultimately pointless. The TV men can only execute their plans with Titans around, since their numbers are too low to constantly distract enemies like the Skibidi Toilets do. Plus, they rarely engage in combat themselves and often leave their allies hanging, which makes them vulnerable. This lack of efficiency makes all the other races fall short of the Skibidi Toilets. Moving on to technology. Sure, the Skibidi Toilets are behind the Astro Toilets and TV men in this area, but there's one key detail. The Skibidi scientist managed to recreate Astro space tech on Earth using available resources. Considering he was once an Astro Toilet and knew all their tech, the fact he was able to build lasers and Skibidi glitches using Earth resources is impressive. Thanks to him, the Skibidi were able to hold their own against stronger enemies for a long time. What else can our toilets do? They steal tech from their enemies and use it against them. This is why, in terms of tech, the Skibidi surpass all the Alliance races. They managed to steal tons of Astro weapons and build G-Titan in a very short time. Remember, the Cameraman Titan took 30 episodes to repair and upgrade, and the TV Man took 20 episodes. But G-Toilet upgraded his model in just 4 episodes. So, even without their main scientist, the Skibidi haven't lost their edge in improving and creating new tech. Also, the Skibidi were among the first to actively invent and quickly integrate new things into their army. Remember the first part of episode 69? They ran a bunch of experiments, and thanks to them, they were able to create a weapon that could counter the Astro Toilets, acid, which no one else used except the Skibidi. Why? Because they never stop moving forward and are always looking to improve, which also shows their strength in tech. By the way, hybrids now use this acid weapon against the Astro Toilets. In the end, I want to add that despite the death of the Skibidi scientist, the Skibidi kept improving. Many, including me, thought they'd look to the Alliance for help to assemble G-Titan. But as we've seen, they managed on their own, creating G-Titan and copying Astro technology. This was well demonstrated in Part 4 of Episode 77. Another thing that sets the Skibidi Toilets apart from the agents is their sheer number of massive fighters. In the Alliance, you can count such characters on one hand, essentially only the Titans, and maybe camera striders or speaker helicopters if you stretch it. Because of this, agents far from their Titans have no idea how to deal with them. This clearly gives the Skibidi a huge advantage. Large Skibidi, while not super strong on their own, play an important role, helping G-Toilet, the Skibidi scientist, and other key characters. Remember Cameraman Titan 1.0 and TV Man Titan 1.0? They were taken down by G-Toilet with the help of large Skibidi. Sure, strategy helped them too, but we've covered that already. Why focus only on physical stuff? Let's not forget morale. The Skibidi Toilets might even rival the Cameramen in this aspect. Considering the leaders of both races, G-Toilet's situation is just as tough as Cameraman Titan's. Think about it. He almost instantly lost everything. His friend, his best scientist, his main base, and most of his troops. And as we know, G-Toilet really values his fighters. Plus, he was hunted by Astro Toilets who were intent on finishing him off. Still, G-Toilet stood strong, both physically and mentally, against all dangers. He defeated both the Astro and the Titans, showing what a true leader should be, inspiring each of his fighters to keep going, just like him. If he was weak or unimpressive, the Skibidi Toilets wouldn't have followed him. When it comes to G-Man's army, they never give up, especially those brave little Skibidi Toilets at the end of episode 73. His G-Squad is full of the most optimistic guys who are always smiling, especially that hybrid bodybuilder. We may not know the reason behind their hyper-cheerful nature, but we hope they achieved it naturally. Ahem. And the kamikaze Skibidi Toilets, as we understand, don't feel emotions at all, so they willingly head into certain death. This proves that G-Toilet has a positive influence on his team, helping them. And in return, they're willing to give their lives for him and their race. Now, here's the Skibidi's biggest trump card, the one thing even the Astro Toilets can't match, though the Skibidi lost this advantage themselves. Their best asset is their massive amount of resources. All the giant Skibidi, G-Toilet, who's already a Titan, and let's not forget the mech suits created by the Skibidi scientist, all of these were built from scratch. Their massive acid barrels, bombs, numerous bases, these all require a colossal amount of resources. Where did they come from? That's anyone's guess, but it's clear that the Skibidi Toilets have an endless resource supply. Add all of this up, and the Skibidi Toilets clearly come out on top. They're the strongest race in the series, and they could easily win this war. All they need to do is build up enough strength, and when they do, their victory will be inevitable. And that's it, guys. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.